Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Alina. We have wonderful speakers here today, Prachi, Patankar, Martin McQueen, and Venkat Reddy, who are bringing their knowledge and expertise to us all. You know, when I heard the horrific news on August 13th that a Dalit boy was beaten to death by a dominant caste teacher for touching water pot in school in India, it reminds me few incidents of untouchability I have faced myself in childhood in India. The small luck I had was I used to go to the Dalit colony in the school there. It was a small room, right? It's a hut one at the time, just a small blackboard. So where all children used to go and attend that school within the Dalit community. So I did not go through what this small poor boy Inder Meghwal has gone through today. But I used to face untouchability in community from other people, dominant caste people, or children. When I used to mingle with the other dominant caste children, I used to face this untouchability myself. So at the same time in the school too, whenever I started my school and the colleges and universities, I faced numerous untouchability myself. So why I'm telling this, it is a shame to say that this untouchability is still being practiced every day in India and South Asian community even today. So it is impacting millions of children and adults from the Dalit and Adivasi community in India across the globe. So usually people think that there is a caste discrimination in South Asia, but they never see hidden cause for the untouchability. That is the discrimination, actually cause for the discrimination. People think that untouchability is a past and it does not exist anymore in South Asian community. Is it true? We are going to listen and learn more from the speakers here today. So I'm going to invite Mr. Martin Macwan, to give his valuable talk today. Mr. Macwan has been engaged since 1980, working with the communities to achieve life free of untouchability and caste violence by committing to the value of equality. He has been founding member of numerous organizations, including Navasarjan Trust, Dalit Foundation, Dalit Shakti Kendra, and the Indian Institute of Dalit Studies. He writes books for the children focusing on equality. It is our honor to have Mr. Macwan today in this event. Please, Mr. Macwan.
Thank you so much, and nice to meet new people on this occasion. Well, I would say the first point is what is the magnitude of the problem that we are facing in India? So these are not isolated events. That's part of a very well orchestrated system. So one of the largest study on the subject was done by Navasarjan Trust in 2010, along with some faculty from the some of the prestigious universities of the US and London School of Economics. We did this study in about 1,589 villages and 98,000 respondents. So that's a huge study. You can see it took us about 4 years, and we completed in 2010. Now it identifies about 98 forms of discrimination and measures its practices to how many percentage and all that. It's a huge report. You can also see it on the Google. But let me because we are speaking about Inder Meghwal, let me start with that. The finding of the survey is that in 54% of the government schools, Dalit children are seated separately during the midday meal. That is the finding of the Gujarat, which is considered to be a model state of India. So I'm not talking about Bihar, Rajasthan, Jharkhand and all that. This is about Gujarat. Okay. So number two is that all the laws that we have in India to prevent untouchability, right from 1955 Untouchability Officers Act to 1976 Civil Right Protection Act, and finally the Atrocity Act also been amended. The objective of the law has been to prevent the crime. And what I'm saying is that very little work is done to prevent the crimes. So if you see the data which has come out just yesterday or day before yesterday of 2021, again, it says that there is a marginal increase in atrocities from 2020. Rajasthan appears to be number 2 in the entire country in terms of atrocities, both on Dalits and tribals. So that's a very important data which has come up. But when we speak about the data, and I believe I talk of the data because if you really want to prevent the crimes, one cannot do so unless we have very systematic data, which will help to plan the programs. When people like us, the civil society organizations present data, the government does not accept those reports. As it happened in the case of Naustajan Trust, it has come up again and again in the assembly. It has been discussed in the parliament once. The government denied, and they used the Dalit MLAs to stand up and say, I have been a Dalit MLA born here and I've never seen untouchability in my life. Yeah. And so that's the kind of evidence they want to produce. And well, I had to then go back to an unusual strategy and asking all the Dalit MLAs to resign if they are saying so from the assembly floor, that there is no untouchability, therefore you don't need political reservations. So resign and fight from the general elections. And then they said, I think there's some sort of untouchability still remaining in the country. But that is not solving the problem. Now, if you look at the data, I've been doing this exercise for last 3 months and more. From 47 to 77, that's about 30 years, India did not have a system of systematic collection of data on the violence against Dalits based on caste. The first data which appears, which is more into segregated forms in terms of nature of crimes, that's something like 75. For tribals, it is 5 years later. There are 2 years in between where the data is missing. You don't find any data. Whatever data we have for last 41 years says that about 26,000 Dalits have been murdered. About 5,000 tribals have been murdered. This is only because of untouchability. In terms of rape on the Dalit women, the cases are about 55,000. For the tribal women, it is 22,004. And if you look at the general data, that's about 1.25 million cases in last 41 years. I'm talking only of those cases which have been registered before the police. And one of our earliest finding was when we did the first survey in 1989 in Gujarat, we saw that sometimes the person goes to the police station and the police will simply take application and does not reduce to a registered complaint. And those applications are disposed after 6 months without any action. The number of applications were about 150% more than the actual registered FIRs. That means one can say that the data which has been presented before the parliament and the assemblies has been underrated to about 150%. That's the conclusion that one can draw. So what can one do when you don't have data? Number 2, I have been visiting number of universities to speak, and what I listened from the faculty there is that for last 5 years and around that time, very little research. Sorry. Okay, I think I heard some intervention in between.
Sorry, can you everyone mute it, please, if you don't mind?
Me?
No, except the speaker. Please, everyone.
Okay. Okay. So what I've been coming to learn is that the research grants are no more available in the universities. And such research and seminars are not promoted. And that means there's complete virtual stop on the academic exercise on such discussions. Now, that's a very serious issue, that when you're talking of the magnitude of violence to that level, which I've just described, and then you don't have an academic activities along with it, how can one fight about it? Well, so this is the scenario, and I believe that unless and until we are preparing to file a public interest litigation in the Supreme Court. And what we want is that the court must intervene and order a statewide survey to be done by the states. Because unless and until you have a survey which is being done, we will not come to know the magnitude of the problem. And that once you have the survey, then you know that in X amount of villages, this is happening. Okay. So this is the scenario. Earlier we had, if you have been following and if you have read, we had a massive yatra from Ahmedabad to Delhi against untouchability. We have been running a campaign from 2017 called Untouchability Free India. We want India free of untouchability. And what we asked people is that the new parliament building is coming up. And there's a tradition that when you build a new house, you keep a coin in the foundation in the memory of a legendary figure in 12th century in Gujarat, who sacrificed his life so that the water can be available to the state, on a condition that the state removes untouchability. It was agreed upon, and that's the history. When people build new houses, they keep a coin. So we said the new parliament building has come up, and we have heard that there's no coin which is being laid there, so we want to give you a coin. We made a coin which is so far probably the largest coin in the world. It's about 1 ton. That's about 1,000 and more kilogram coin. The community donated brass utensils from several hundred villages to a tune of about 2,450 kilograms of brass utensils. And we minted a coin out of that, and we had a yatra with a coin. Along with that, we asked community to make a donation of only 1 rupee to the parliament to strengthen its resolve to abolish untouchability. The appeal was accepted, well accepted, received, and we got about 2.1 million coins. So we had 2 trucks full loaded with coins all the way to Delhi. Of course, the yatra was not allowed in Delhi. There were about 1,000 police people with tear gas and boulders and all the arsenals you can imagine, waiting to prevent us from a direct order from the Minister of Home Affairs. Anyway, we came back with a coin as we had decided, but saying that we are not going to leave this issue unresolved. Maybe we'll come back next year with more strength, but we'll keep the issue up. When we did this yatra, you hear normal those discussions. Oh, where is the untouchability now? The yatra ended. It passed through Rajasthan villages, covered a distance of about 1,000 kilometers in Rajasthan alone. And I've never seen in my 40-year-long career that mammoth response from the community. Thousands and thousands of people waiting for 6 hours on the road to have a look at the coin, with the tea and with money and garlands and food. Yeah. And it was a 7-day-long yatra. Exactly 6 days after the yatra ended, that the Inder Meghwal death happened. Now you don't find anyone who says that there's no untouchability. Everybody says there's untouchability. Only okay. So apart from the data and with a view to prevent the crime. But what we need to do is awaken the community and organize the community in a massive scale. So day after tomorrow on 5th September, which is going to be also celebrated as a Teachers' Day in India, we have planned programs in about 1,500 villages at the same time, same go. The numbers may increase, and every village they are keeping a small earthen pot where children, school-going children, they're going to put 1 rupee for the parents of Inder Meghwal to say that you have lost Indra, but we all are with you. We're expecting collection of about 75,000 coins. That's 75,000 children who will be associated with the movement. And then on 24th September, about 300 women are going to do a yatra from Ahmedabad to Jalore with those pots. And this is going to be all women yatra, first time to happen on such an issue. So, because I'm from a community involvement person for so many years, and I believe that unless and until the community is ready and awakened, very little that we can do. So, well, I think I am going to stop here because that's what few remarks that I had in my mind. And if there are any questions, I'll be there, and anyway. I'll be here till I listen to the other 2 speakers. I reorganize the program and I've missed the session today with the students. So I'll continue and listen to the speakers and then go. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Macwan. So that's wonderful to know that you are going to be there rest of the event, so we can push back any question and answer people have for you in the question and answer period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. That was really brilliant to hear about your initiative and the insights that you shared. Our next panelist is Prachi, who was born and raised in rural India. Prachi Patankar was raised by a freedom fighter, grandmother and parents deeply involved in anti-caste, feminist, and peasant movements. Over 2 decades in New York City, Prachi has been an activist, educator, grant maker, and writer involved in social movement, which linked the local and the global police brutality and war, militarization, race and caste, women of color, feminism, and global gender justice. Currently, she serves as a senior program officer at Foundation for a Just Society, where she leads a grant-making portfolio aimed at supporting gender justice and LGBTQI rights, focused movement building across South and Southeast Asia. Prachi believes in the vital power of intersectional and international vision and strategies, which resonates across Dalit rights and Black lives, migrant justice, and gender justice to build bottom-up change from the local to global. I welcome you, Prachi.
Thank you so much, Jai Bhim, Jai Savitri. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this really important event. It's an honor to be part of this space with SADAN and speakers who are long-term anti-caste fighters, because the work that you have done is so immense. And I hope that the few words that I can share today can do justice really to the task that is ahead of us. First, my heart goes out to little Inder's family. I hope that his memory will be a blessing and a charge for us to do our best to create a different kind of world where another Inder will not have to face this ever again. It was almost 100 years ago, on March 20th, 1927, that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar led the historic Mahad Satyagraha, a direct action for the right to drink water from the Savdar tank in Mahad in Maharashtra, India. And at the time, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar said that the fight was not simply for the right to drink water or to have access to water. He said that simply drinking the water will not give us very much. It's not even a matter of our human rights, though we will fight to establish that right. But our goal is no less than that of the French Revolution. This was fought for the reconstruction of society, for the eradication of the old society based on feudal inequality and the establishment of a new society based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. Similarly, we want to end old inhumane caste society based on inequality and reconstruct the world, reconstruct the society on the basis of liberty, equality, and fraternity. And this is our goal. So almost 100 years ago, for drinking water, for defying this Hindu order of society, Dr. Ambedkar and the Dalit community did this revolutionary direct action, and it was met with great repression from the caste Hindus. And they carried out a purification ritual to undo the desecration. And in response, Dr. Ambedkar came back several months later for a renewed struggle because there was an injunction against further attempt to do anything at the tank. So Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar decided instead to burn the Manusmriti at the same spot on December 25th, 1927. So this was a foundational struggle for the Dalit movement, for the anti-caste movement, for the movement for water rights, for the movement for life, and really for a movement for caste annihilation against Brahmanism, which created the very core of Dalit and caste oppression in India. Almost 100 years after the Mahat Satyagraha, a 9-year-old Dalit boy, Inder Meghwal, is killed because he dared to drink water from the teacher's cup. And because we know our history, we still know today that our response to this is simply not a battle about access to water. It's about annihilation of caste altogether. And it's a battle against Brahmanism and for a society based on equality for all people. We are living in even darker times today. Open calls for genocide and ethnic cleansing of Muslims by Hindutva leaders and those connected and part of the ruling party are not only ignored, but they're supported. Not only that, but the next so-called Dhamma Sansad will review a draft of the new constitution of India as a Hindu nation, which envisions Muslims and Christians that have no right to vote, where they want to create a new system to abolish the rules and regulations during the British era, where now they want everything to be conducted on the basis of the Varna system. Murderers and gang rapists of Muslims are set free and welcomed home with garlands because they have so-called Brahmin values, and therefore they're cultured. While activist lawyers like Tista Setalvad face repression because she has been relentless in her fight to get justice for victims of Gujarat riots in 2002. Many of the people that faced those riots and faced so many attacks during the pogroms still continue to fight for justice and are denied justice. Hundreds are languishing in jail under draconian laws for simply registering dissent, for fighting for democratic futures for all people in India, simply for celebrating the Dalit warriors at Bhima Koregaon who bravely fought against the most brutal and monstrous Peshwa Brahmin regime. So when we think about the Bhima Koregaon battle and people languishing in jail for celebrating that battle, we must remember what this war against our political prisoners is really about. It's battle for keeping the Peshwa visions of Brahminist Hindu dominance. This is a reminder of how Brahmanism is at the very core of the genocidal and Islamophobic agenda of the Hindutva ideologies that rule India. 100 years after the Mahat Satyagraha, we are still confronted with untouchability and immense caste oppression and exploitation, as our speaker right before me has talked about. Caste and gender-based violence continues. Whether we think about Inder Meghwal or think about the young women in Hathras, they're countless like this. 75 years after India gained independence from our external oppressors, the British, we are confronted with the worst and the most extreme version of our internal oppressors and the Brahmanism taken to its extreme conclusion. 75 years after independence, the Hindu supremacists in power, while they hold the decision-making power to push forward genocidal agendas, they are trying to make us forget the century-old appropriation and the oppression of Dalit and Adivasi communities, the cultures, and their lives. While torturing domestic care workers in their homes, they claim to share power while tokenizing a very few from these communities in the positions of government. 75 years later, one cannot but help remember Dr. Ambedkar's words as he introduced and failed to pass the Women's Bill at the Parliament. He said, to leave inequality between class and class, he meant really caste and caste, between sex and sex, which is the soul of Hindu society, untouched, and to go on passing legislations that relating to economic issues is to make a farce out of our constitution and to build a palace on a dung of heap. 75 years later, the Hindu right and its followers have truly built an empire on the dung of heap, which is Brahmanism, the soul of Hindu society. The question for us is, what dreams do we offer in response? What different visions do we have for our communities that is alternatives to Ram Rajya and Hindu Rashtra? We know that we don't need to go too far for those dreams. We know that Dr. Ambedkar gave us our dreams for economic and social equality for all people, for all castes, and for all genders. We must take seriously the visions and strategies laid out by our foremost anti-caste thinkers like Phule and Ravidas. We must also follow the leadership and vision of many of our current young Dalit Bahujan intellectuals and leaders in India and across the diaspora. We have with us our dreams of Baliraja of Phule, Begumpura of Ravidas, the Dravidistan of Periyar, which provide us with frameworks for specific socioeconomic policies for annihilating caste. So for all of us wanting to create a new India, not simply going back to some romantic idea of liberatory India that really never was, but an India that is free from all shackles of caste, patriarchy, and more. Today, the event is taking place virtually and is organized and sponsored by diaspora-based organizations. So we must ask, what is the responsibility of those living here in the US, outside of India, to be in solidarity with the most affected there? How do we challenge and uproot the influence of those same forces funding and spreading hate from the diaspora, from the US, from Canada? What is our responsibility of those of us from non-Dalit, those from dominant caste backgrounds who speak out? What is our responsibility when Inder Meghwal's family is their narratives about that this being a caste murder is questioned in the media? And when a modern form of untouchability and caste discrimination is still playing out blatantly, even in the global and US institutions? What is our responsibility when Hindu right from one side promotes and creates caste-based atrocities and violence, and the other carries out Hinduphobia cries Hinduphobia for naming this as rightfully being caste-based? If 100 years ago, Dr. Ambedkar's direct action looked like mass drinking of Chavdar water at the Mahat tank, what should our mass direct action look like today? These are just questions, and maybe there are some answers within them, but a path forward is something that we all have to figure together in unity. Lastly, as we remember my mom, Gail Onvet, it was a year of her passing, I did want to end with her words. It's a challenge that she put for all of us. She wrote in 2010, when analyzing the 1992 Babri Masjid destruction by the Hindutva forces in the book Dalit Visions, she had called this a caste war, not simply an assault against Muslim community. She said that Dhamma Sansad was being posed as a higher than people's parliament, and that this was a declaration of war against Dalits and Adivasis and women and the Bahujan Samaj and the toiling and productive masses and castes and classes who have always been held as inferior to Varnashrama Dharma. She also said that we must unite to fight this war in all its spheres, the sphere of economics, the sphere of politics, and beyond just the idea of secularism, but on the cultural front too, to fight in the every inch of the terrain of Indian history and identity that the Hindu nationalists have asked and staked claim of. So this is the task ahead of us, and I'm there for it. Jai Bhim. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Prachi. It was wonderful to hear your beautiful talk and presentation. Definitely, like, we salute your mom, like, who was born in Western country, but she sacrificed all our life in India for the untouchable people like Dalit and Adivasis, their cause. Definitely, like as you mentioned, like you pose some questions here for us, especially for the diaspora people who are living here. What is our responsibility? What is our solidarity to that is in front of us to fight with these people like the Hindutva or the caste people and Brahmanism. Thank you very much, and we'll move to the next panelist. We have next speaker, our Venkat Reddy. He is a national convener for the ME Foundation, an Indian-based organization dedicated to the abolition of child labor and mainstreaming of formal schooling for children. Under his leadership, the foundation scope has expanded to 10,000 villages and resulting in more than 1 million children in India being withdrawn from the work and enrolled in the school. He is involved in networking with the several government and non-government agencies in the country. He is a board member and advisor to several government and non-government agencies at the state and central level. He has represented NGOs from India and United Nations Special Session on the Children. He trained several partners from the Africa and Central America countries on the concept of creation of child labor-free zones. He has published several articles in leading Telugu newspapers in defense of child rights. So, and I'm also proud to say that, like whenever I was working in back home, I worked with him closely. So regarding child labor and the bonded labor, abolition, and all the issues. Thank you very much. Please, Venkat Reddy, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And when I heard Martin and Prachi, I really excited about this campaign, and also her questions raised very important questions. Inder Meghwals, I work with children. There are Inder Meghwals who are battling, who are struggling every day in 15 lakh schools in India. Almost some of them given up, some of them walked out, some of them pushed out. Nearly 20% children pushed out from the schools. A good name by the department gives them dropouts. I think whenever we use this terminology, we should use this as push-outs. They are expelled. Last week, I was struggling with 4 Dalit children and 2 tribal children who were in Navodaya schools, reached up to 12th class, and they were not allowed to participate in this 75th, a big drama of this Independence Day. They were expelled because they went to movie or they went to have some fun in this school, but they have not yet taken back with all their struggle. The reason is they questioned the authority when they were brutally beaten up one of their students. Actually, that is the reason, but they cooked up a lot of stories. Why I'm saying this? Because the struggle, the battles in schools are relentlessly, regularly happening. We need to be watching these schools. And I'm glad when Martin said writ petition, I think in that survey, we should also keep that who are the children left out and the reasons why they pushed out. Also one survey, one point we should keep it, because in the post-COVID, nearly 20% of children are not in schools, and all of them are Dalit children. Majority of them are Dalit children and girls. And when we talk about the children, actually we saw that the vulnerability and discrimination for children in general, poor children in general, Dalit children and girls are very much discriminative chances. Interestingly, in the community, maybe the campaigns, the social norms, existing social norms have to change and new social norms have to build. Maybe the campaign needs a bigger role, bigger pressure on the community. As I said, the inclusive nature of this campaign should be adopted. The non-Dalits should be talking about these issues. Actually, they should be the talking these issues. And the worrying thing in our experience is institutions who are not about access to these Dalit children, schools, revenue offices, Aadhaar centers, now new digital, what you call a huge exclusion because of these things. Me Sevas, banks. You know, in Bihar, a child has to enter, if a child has to enroll, he needs Aadhaar card. He needs or she needs bank account. She needs date of birth certificate. And to get these things, imagine a Tola, a Mahatola, a Maji Tola, a Mushar Tola parents getting these documents. So the state has insensitive, and state do not want these children to be in schools. That's it. If they want these children into schools, they would have made all the arrangements if they want. Actually, state needs these documents, not the child, not the parent. And in Bihar, when we see this, a parent has to travel 8 kilometers to fetch this Aadhaar card. And on that particular day, Aadhaar card person won't be there. The power is not there. And they have to travel 3-4 times. And in Bihar, the schools still not accept Dalit children because they are not taken bath, or they have several reasons not accepting these Dalit children. Today, I'm talking today, now also. So somebody has to raise their voices in these circumstances. And what is happening for these children not to continue in these schools? Because the norms of the schools. See, one case yesterday I was handling. The grandmother and child is living together, they're Dalit, and the grandmother is sick. In Dalit families, in these families, a grandmother is sick means a girl child has to take care. There is no other support mechanisms. And the school is insensitive, and school principal says not to come to school. She expels the child, a girl child, in front of school. A background of that school is Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. And the child is waiting for an enroll at her own school. And the child says, 5 years I studied in this school. How dare this principal is throwing out me from this school? So we have to give an undertaking to this school saying that we will not be absent in future. That grandma has to give. So grandma has to give an undertaking that he won't be in sick. So these are the insensitivity institutions which we saw, and all data saying low learning levels or again Dalit children. It's not learning, it's not taught. I think this also we should change the nomenclature. Children were not taught properly to these children. And these children were slow learners, these children were low learners, and these children were thrown out from these schools because, you know, the yesterday's girls, the principal's complaint is she will be failing in class 10th. She already decided without any exam, and she is throwing this girl out. And I'm not saying this one case, millions of battles happening in schools. All of us should try to get into those schools, try to enter into those schools, check the class-wise children names, who are those children expelled from these schools, thrown out from these schools. We have to change this nomenclature. So I am very happy that I am getting a lot of energy by listening to this group, because I was really very low over the last week. You know, the battle of Navodaya schools, those 12th class, now they have given up. They have fought very vigorously. They went to SC Commission, they went to National Commission. We have represented to this Social Justice Minister for Social Justice. He tells the children that discipline is important. So the decision is correct. So why this minister staying there without helping these children. So these children given up and joined in private schools. Now the privatization, what we are seeing, it is very sheer. Directly, these 8 children were joined in private schools and paid a fee to those private schools, because the last date of this admission is 31st August. Now imagine this trauma. The woman, the parents gone into those, the brilliant children, I spoke to them. So what I am trying to say is, in the country, in India, all schools are insensitive towards these children. They're not invited, they're not wanted. So somewhere we should put pressure on the school administration and make them responsible. If one child is left from that school, a Dalit child, the entire administration is responsible. So I am glad that I am here. Let us work towards rights of those girls and boys, and they are bright, and they are battling, they are struggling. Thousands of mutinies actually in schools. Inder Meghwal, we lost Inder Meghwal, but very sad. But the children are fighting against all odds and staying there. If the food is not there, they are fighting. If the water is not there, they are questioning. The only thing is, let us all join in those battles, and this battle must be won. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venkat Reddy garu. It's wonderful, like you brought all the information and your experiences. It's heartbreaking to hear those stories. It's happening for our Dalit and Adivasi children in the grounds. Yeah, there is a lot to, like, these stories do not come out, because people don't talk about it, or it's normalized in the institutions. Definitely, even the people bring it out, like, they are attacked, or the people, dominant caste people, keep arguing that no, it does not happen to the Dalit Adivasi children, or it happens to the every children, blah blah blah. Those kind of the false narratives, they bring it to counter and shut down our voices. Thanks God, like you brought these real stories from the ground to the world now today, to the global audience. Thank you very much. So just we are going to the question and answer period now. If you have anybody has any questions, just you can go ahead. Shika is going to take over that session. Shika, please.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, everyone, Martin, Venkat, and Prachi, for giving us significant insight on the events that are happening, along with data and stories that we lack hearing, because you know how mainstream media works around these issues. So I would like to open this platform for everyone to ask questions if they have any.
I found one question here from Shri Prakash. She asked some questions during Prachi presentation. Casteism and classism are there. How can we address it? Prachi, I think it could be, you can answer. You asked during your presentation.
That's a very, very, very big question. I think there's probably so many ways to answer that and address that. But I think one of the things that I was saying in my presentation was that I think there needs to be a uniting of people from, and I think others have mentioned this too, that uniting of people across different caste and class backgrounds to fight this struggle. I think others have mentioned that the fact that there is casteism in India and in the diaspora is not something that is a problem of Dalit communities. It's a problem of actually Brahmanism that has created the caste system. And so the fight should not only lie with the communities that are the most oppressed and most affected by this. And the responsibility should be taken by people across all castes. And I think one of the issues that also has been a problem for many years is that the caste and class have been separated when you're looking at economic questions and when you're looking at economic justice questions, that historically even the left has not addressed it through the lens of caste and has separated those two questions. And we have to understand and realize that those are intrinsically connected problems because of the historic nature of the caste system in India. And that the issue of class is very much connected to the most oppressed caste communities are also the communities that are the most economically depressed as well. So talking about caste and class, you cannot address the problem of class without addressing the fact that we need to take away the caste system altogether and fight caste discrimination at the same time. So that's one way. And I think somebody has also asked earlier, what are some of the alliances? I can't, in terms of across caste, and I cannot speak to all India, but at least in the United States, I know that I'm part of, groups like India Civil Watch International that many of the people here, including Chinaya, are part of. And I think we are definitely trying to make a coalition and broad coalitions with, Muslim organizations, Dalit organizations, and also India Civil Watch itself is a multi-caste and religious group of people who are trying to build a broad struggle in the United States so that we can not only stand with people in India who are, waging social movements against all of these questions, but also we can challenge the same dominant and Hindutva communities that are existing here, have come here from, United States and Canada for decades, and who have established what India and Hinduism means in the eyes of many people in the US. And they have kind of established what India represents, and they have tried to erase that India represents caste system. So the struggle for us here is to actually try to fight against that. And it's a big tide that we have to really fight against, because many people don't understand. They see India as this amazing spiritual place that only brings amazing, beautiful spiritual things and yoga to people. But that caste system is intrinsically and very much part of what India and Hinduism is that many people don't understand. And so our struggle is very, very difficult because of that. And I think to fight that struggle, we have to all come together, both Muslim communities, dominant caste communities, and Dalit communities, and to kind of unite together to fight against that. So that's, it's a kind of long way of answering that question. I hope that's okay.
Thank you very much, Prachi. To add that one, SADAN has been working with other Muslim communities in Canada. So if you look at the flyer itself, like half of the organizations, this event supported by the Muslim organizations. Just I want to give that message here. Thank you. Sadia, I think we have a question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, good evening, everyone. If you're joining from India, thank you for this wonderful event. First and foremost, I would like to express, my condolence and extreme, solidarity for 9-year-old Inder Meghwal. I still can't get over the haunting images of, the images were on social media. It's the brutality towards Inder, it shook up the, the soul. So I have a few comments. Wonderful to listen to all the speakers, and like Vijay has expressed, like I come from an organization, Justice for All. We work for persecuted minorities across the globe, and particularly we are seeing what happening to Dalit minorities is when we, for instance, here, those of us in North America, we saw what one George Floyd incident turned into. Right. And here we are witnessing every single day. For instance, I was just going through the statistics, which all of us are aware. I'll just bring it up again. This was a statistics that was done in 2002, I believe, the last statistics by the India's national crime records. Every hour, 2 Dalits are assaulted. Every day, 3 Dalit women are raped, 2 Dalits are murdered, and 2 Dalit homes are torched. And we all know this number is nowhere close to the actual number of crimes committed against Dalits. But because of the Indian police, the panchayat system, the district, the government officials who are part of this caste system, we know where this is going. So my question or my comment would be like 200 million Dalit minorities. This should be a matter of concern, not just for India or as Indians, but for global society, collective humanity. This is my, this is one of the, I'm baffled that why is there such invisibility when it comes to caste oppression, in particular the caste-based violence against Dalit minorities. For this, I'm absolutely 100%. I would be working with Vijay and others in the diaspora or in the North American, human rights space to bring more awareness and to pressure international bodies. They have a mandate to intervene, to take measures, whenever there are such targeted violence against minorities, ethnic or even race-based populations. So my question or my comment would be like, what would you want us, the diaspora groups or international, human rights groups, to work or to advocate, to highlight and to enforce that the United Nations and other, European Human Rights Council start noticing or start taking notice. So I'll end at that, and I will be happy if somebody could address from one of the speakers. Oh, you're muted, Vijay.
Sorry, except the speaker, please, I request everyone to mute it. In that case, the event goes smoother. Thank you. Yes, I think I direct this question to the speakers from India because it's like what they are expecting support from the diaspora community might be Mr. Macwan. If you don't mind, please, can you take this?
Sure. What's the question?
I can say that, like, what can international organizations or even international bodies like the UN do in order to, effectively address the caste oppression that is taking place in the biggest democracy, India, in particular the UN, according to the mandate?
So I spent a lot of my personal time during the World Conference Against Racism in 2001, and even later worked with several, and my friends are still working on it. The question is, few resolutions from international bodies doesn't make much impact on Indian systems. They're very thick-skinned people. What do they lose by, if the caste goes away? So I think is definitely what we need a lot of solidarity, a lot of voices. But ultimately, I think we have to, at the grassroots, the movement has to be strong. We have to be able to use law effectively. And we should create ways where we can negotiate with the parties. For example, we have state elections in Gujarat in next 2 months. And if I remember, I would have shown, but I can post the pictures to you. We have created an EVM machine which is about 9 feet tall. And that's going around the entire state of Gujarat, and with a message that we will only vote for that party which has a clear program charted out to abolish untouchability in the manifesto, not otherwise. So I think we have to work out several ways. But one thing I think I see a lot of possibilities that, from the international community is that a lot of what I would say, making noise on the issue. Because I learned from the experience that the biggest strategy that works for India in relation to international relations is the embarrassment. That, if this is what's happening in 2022 after 75 years of independence with the children, and that also in the public schools, I think that's a very powerful platform to explore. Okay, I hope I've been able to answer your question. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Macwan. We have two other people. First, I want to open question for Aditya Bharadwaj, please.
Hi, thank you so much for the wonderful presentations. And I had a question. I want to ask this, that are there any programs or organizations in the West, with a city-based chapter or something, which kind of address the fact that whatever is coming from Brahmanism and Hinduism, it not necessarily right, because from the way I see it here in Canada, the Brahmins which come and migrate in my circle and all, they kind of make it a norm that whatever they say and do is tantamount to what Indian culture is. And, they will shamelessly propagate this agenda that Hinduism is good, etc. Even in the light of something like this, they would say, oh, but Hinduism is very good, but it's not, it has done nothing to rectify the problems. Are there any chapters or organizations and city-based organizations which kind of, initiate these discussions even more? Because every city has one of these Hindu organizations everywhere, right? It has even my university has an Indian society of, people who do everything which is Savarna. So I was wondering if there are something like that, the places as well, because this kind of outreach is required, especially in Savarna groups, because even if you hold a mirror to Savarnas, they will not see that what they're doing is very ugly. They would they're so comfortable in their hypocrisy that they would just not look at that. So without having a conversation with them, it's very difficult, So I was wondering if there is anything like that.
Prachi, you can answer. Shika, she's working on that issue along with our other comrades here. Akriti, actually, she has been working on this issue in Canada. So, and obviously, Brother Chinya is also there. Any one of you guys can answer this question. Please.
I can just quickly say, the specific goal that you laid out, there isn't a particular goal, but, there are, of course, organizations like SADAN and that I think the part of that goal is that, right? To, challenge the narrative that is put out by Hindutva and the kind of Hindu narrative that says this is what India is, or this is what Hinduism, even Hinduism is, right? And I would say that, we need to create alternative spaces. We need to create alternative spaces that provide a different kind of cultural representation of what India represents, and what really, there are, if we talk about, the reason I mentioned Gail's quote is, we need to take over each terrain, and that big terrain is the cultural front, and we need to take over the cultural front and show that we have our leaders like Ravidas, we have Tukaram, we have all these anti-caste communities that are presenting Fule's model that presents a very different kind of spiritual, cultural rituals that are not about Brahminist rituals. We have our communities follow different kinds of gods, they follow different kinds of spirituality that is not the Hindutva spirituality. We don't follow Dronacharya, like somebody mentioned. We follow Ekalavya, and it's for a different reason, right? And why that is, and we need to kind of celebrate that and create those rituals in our campuses and in our communities, so that the U.S. people and Indian communities that are growing up here see that there is a joy and in our kind of history and our culture that we celebrate. And it's not only the Hindu-based Diwali that we follow. We follow Bali Raja, right? We don't follow the person who created and shut down Bali Raja into the bottom of the universe. We follow Bali Raja, and we need to celebrate Bali Raja in our campuses, and we need to show that. We should not let the ground of our communities go to Hindutva dominance. So I think we need to create that as what would be my answer.
Because like everywhere in every university and every major conference, you see Hindu organizations popping up. Like in Montreal, there was even a holy festival by the river, like a huge gathering of people celebrating burning of a woman, right? So when they are so comfortable in organizing something so inhumane and propagating that as culture to actually Westerners who don't know about this, there should also be such chapters, I believe, every
Yeah, so I agree with Aditya. Like it's very important to take our the leaders, the Dalit and Adivasi anti-caste leaders, like Ambedkar and Phule and Periyar, their ideology and their cultural resistance, right? So Dalit and Adivasi culture is always a resistance. Like the Ambedkar said that like he gave a lot of material to us in his revolution and counter-revolution, right? So we need to take those ideologies, definitely. I think it's regarding that, like, I'm not sure like we have time or not. Shika, like either Shika or Chennaya brother or Kriti, like, can you guys tell a little bit what we are doing in the universities here? Because I know like we have some plans in the universities, little bit, might be 1 or 2 minutes, might be, to answer that question.
Yeah, I can do little education in terms of that's what like Aditya, to add to what Prachi and brother Vijay is saying, that one of the things about SADAN, they initiated this because this whole idea of Indian culture and Hindu culture, which has been equated and presented as this glorious, vegetarian and also yoga loving culture, right? That this that produced very importantly a lot of ignorance about what happens in India, particularly caste oppression and kind of oppression of women, particularly irrespective of caste. You see that the kind of violence goes against women and child abuse. Particularly, the instances, I'm so glad that, Professor Shanta Sinha is also here, who is one of the pioneers of anti-bonded labor movement in India. And, like people like them, who have seen these things in rural areas, like, basically, the most of the time, the oppression happens in the name of caste. Like, but for the caste, these sort of oppression and atrocities will not happen in India. But the problem is that the Hindu diaspora, particularly the Savarnas who have migrated to North America, Europe, and also Australia across, they have presented this culture, particularly they promoted a kind of culture in which basically that this, because of colonial politics and the way in which British colonialism and white culture and white supremacy, basically the closeness between white supremacy and Hindu supremacy. What you see, you cannot divide them and you cannot see them separately because they're very interconnected. So that's one of the reasons why people like presence of persons like us, particularly coming from caste oppressed backgrounds and who are basically anti-caste and also democratic and also passionate about justice. What we are trying to do is that correct this cultural ideas which Indian diaspora tries to spread about India. And I think this is what as a people coming from oppressed caste backgrounds, one of our responsibilities is to expose and tell the world that what actually the caste and untouchability is, and how basically I always tell my students that if you want to know how number of Indians who suffer under the weight of caste and untouchability, I tell them nearly 250 million people. Like country like Canada has 35 millions. There is these staggering numbers. So that's why it's very important that we speak up and tell the truth to the power. We know what Martin McLean telling us, the state is using every possible avenue to suppress and oppress, Dalit communities and other Adivasis and other, Muslim, particularly the persecution, everything. But the thing is that we being in this safe space is one of the important things we can see, that we can put forward, the ideas and oppression which is happening every day in India into the global world and educate people. Particularly the white ignorance needs to be corrected, because it is white people who are basically are harbingers of this yoga nonsense everywhere in the world. And then, it goes into different parts of the world, different communities think that, this is something part of Hinduism. I always tell, ask any upper Savarna Hindu, how many of the grandchildren, grandparents did they ever do yoga at home? No, right? These basic things we need to educate them. And I think, this is what the initiative, the remembering Inder Meghwal, one of the important things is that, the memory needs to become an important, spotlight to which we can really focus on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chania. Thank you very much. So we have other person, Baswa Patel, please. Next we go to Leslie. Baswa Patel, please.
Hello. Good evening. I'm living in UK. My name is Baswa, as you read. Thank you. My question is to whole panel, and Aditya very rightly pointed out in youth or culturally how we are associating in the different countries. And I would like to know from the seniors here if there are any platform or the organizations or the activities happening around these thoughts, because as just the one of the speakers told about yoga is become equated to the Hindu culture, and we are just practicing it, we become Hindu. So, and also he was mentioning the SADAN was mentioning about saying the Indian culture, the Dalit culture is a resistance culture, and this kind, how would we because since 3 years I'm in UK, I lived in Canada as well, but I'm not able to participate in line with the Dalit culture thoughts. And so if I don't get any community event to participate, there's the Ganesh Chaturthi and everybody celebrating, I feel being left out, or also they consider me though he's not part of our culture. So in also the family comes from the Indian culture, so which should do the very diverse. So we come from the different background and we have our own practices, but which are not so popular, then people can appreciate it and feel part of it. So sense of belonging is like kind of deprived for us as a minority, one of these women speakers said. So I would like to know from the speakers in UK, is there any such chapters or associations happening? So I would love to participate and join with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baswa. Prachi, can you answer? You may be aware of so many organizations, especially Ambedkar and Dalit organizations in UK.
Others may be aware of them more in the UK, but I think there is also a South Asia-wide group called South Asia Solidarity Group that exists in UK. That are there. It's a group of both kind of Sri Lankan and Indian and broader South Asia-led group, and they're a progressive and I would say that a lot of South Asian groups have a lot of work to do on being anti-caste. So I cannot claim a full anti-casteness from them, but I think they have that approach in politics for sure. So I would definitely connect with them. But I think that in general, there is, just to restate what, Chennai also said earlier, and I said, I think we need to work and we need to challenge even South Asian groups to popularize our non-Brahmin spiritual and cultural practices. Sometimes South Asian larger groups cannot, maybe don't do kind of more cultural forms of rituals or those kinds of things in campuses because they're more focus on political questions and political issues. But I think when that happens, we're ceding the ground to more Hindutva forces to say, or Hindu even dominant forces to say, this is what India, this is what our cultural practices are, and these are this is what India is. And so I think in order to not that to happen, I think we need to kind of popularize our own practices, and that has to happen. Has to happen with a larger, both Dalit organizations and also larger South Asian organizations as well. So yeah, I'm sure Chinaya and others know more about the actual groups that are in the UK. I don't want to misstate the names because I don't remember exactly what those are.
Thank you, Prachi. The reason behind starting our SADAN is actually like whatever you're saying, Baswa, because like people like us, like so many Dalit and Adivasi people, caste oppressed people who are completely living in the behind the walls or under the blankets because of stigma deeply attached to their identity, right? So that's what like they try to associate it with more Dominical Brahmin caste people by practicing their rituals and all, because they want them to believe that they are also dominant caste people, right? So the reason behind starting SADAN is actually like to start the organization. It bring all the Dalit and Adivasi people who are feeling like you, like not belonging, right? So we want you to belong with your own culture and own community people. So that's what like we started it, and after that, like we have so many people, they are part of SADAN right now. So they are coming out right now and they are associating with us, right? So and other people also started, like in the universities, some people started the groups right now. That's what I mentioned before, like the Canadian universities, they started their own groups for Dalit and Adivasi caste oppressed people to address the issues in the university. So I think you can find it someone like that in our own university, or you can start your own group, and once you started, the people walk with you. That's what I found it, my own experience. Me and Chinya, whenever we started first, the SADAN, only we two started, nobody came. So, right, so just start it yourself. The people come because they are hiding, they don't want to come with us, because once they are identified with their identity, they started having the discrimination more, right? That's what they don't want to come out with their identity. But once we start it, we stand it, that gives you power, that push the other people to walk with you, right? Thank you very much. So we have one more person to ask the question, Leslie. Hello? Leslie, please. Okay. Seems to be he's not asking. Anybody has any question?
Brother Vijay, Shafi here.
Hi, Shafi. Thank you. Actually, I'm going to ask you to give some solidarity statement from Tamil Nadu Multicultural Association of Canada. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. So, thank you. I came here in solidarity and to mourn the loss of the 9-year-old child, Inder Meghwal, and to learn and get inspired from the speakers. I'm glad I did. And I reflect to many of what the speakers told and what the questions came from the audience. So one final thing I want to add up, saying that like we people living abroad, especially in the places of privilege like North America, we are no more the support system of the people living in India. With whatever is happening in India, we have to be the primary voice. We have to take the fight to the global audience, and we have to find avenues in every possible way, and we have to be there for them. In the current situation, we cannot expect the people of India, especially Dalits, Muslims, Adivasis, to take the fight to the next level. We have to be the primitive force here. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shafi. Leslie, please, you can go ahead. I did unmute. You need to unmute yourself. I requested to unmute. You need to unmute yourself, please. Hello? Hi, Leslie, you need to unmute yourself. I requested to unmute. Otherwise, you can post the questions in the chat. I can ask each of you. Okay. Seems to be there is some problem from his device. Technical issue might be. Does anyone has any question? Sadia, can you give your solidarity statement from Justice for Canada?
Yes, I would not take too much time. I have, included most of my statement in the question and during my Q&A. I think all of us, listening from the speakers, we all are aware of what caste oppression is, what caste discrimination is, and that this is happening as we speak in 21st century. We are talking about advancement in science, advancement in the form of how societies are living today. But nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed for the Dalit minorities in India. The mere act of untouchability, it's so depraved. And it is really, to speak of this happening in our times, I feel like it's a shame on our collective humanity, honestly, and a failure of the collective world, that this has for so long been I should say, I don't know, it has been ignored deliberately by the world, or it has been masked by what most of us, our speakers, have said. When you talk about India in the Western world, we talk about yoga, and people are proud to associate. That's the only thing the Western world sees about India. There's absolutely no problem. We are very tolerant. We are very spiritual. This is a message, unfortunately, they are getting, and they're not looking beyond that. While there is, I think nowhere in the human history, I was reading, several books on Dalit persecution, and I think the Dalit minorities are the oldest and the longest persecuted minorities in the world today. So this is, to be honest, it should also be concerning to all of the human rights organizations, because when we talk about campaigns, we talk about several campaigns across the globe. But if we fail to address what is happening to Dalit minorities, that speaks a lot on our, on our failure. If we cannot do something to something that has been happening for such a long time, it just, I feel like it puts a lot of question. It makes our advocacy very questionable. So in that space, I see that we based here in the US, outside of India, the diaspora group, I feel like, yes, strategically, we are well placed to be the voice for the Dalit minorities. But I think this has to happen in collaboration. Like, we can be your voice, we can advocate on your behalf, but we want to be you to be the key focal point. So this is where I would like to end, saying, okay, we are Justice for All. I would be 100% working with Vijay, Professor Chinnaya, and others, including Prachi. I think I'll love to get in touch with you all. And I'm here to say that moving forward, I think we have to aggressively pursue the cause of Dalit minorities. Thank you, and in solidarity. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sadia. Thanks for being with us and your solidarity. The Leslie's question is, how do we undo untouchability? Might be Venkat Reddy garu. So you brought some very interesting points and your experiences of Dalit children from the schools. Can you take this question?
Yeah, it's a big question. And but I'm not cynical. It is possible. The moment We do campaigns in schools, in villages, like Martin's campaign. I think we should take forward in entire country schools also, especially we have to change the mindset of the children also. That we need a big campaign, I think. And second thing is, there is no fear. That is the problem. The instruments which are available, the enforcement is very, very weak. Whatever persons they are, the pressure needs to be put on these enforcement authorities. I think that is also missing. Nobody is questioning. See, the incidents are happening like anything, and we as an activists also, we are getting into next issue. See, a Mariamma case in Telangana, then another case in another place, another case in another place. Then they are keeping us busy and not following the logical ends. And I saw a question in this group saying, what happened in Indra's case? We don't know. So I think somewhere that now the access is there from your side also. So the Indian bureaucracy picks up the phone if there is an NRI's phone. If an NRI calls, they will pick up the phone. At least you can speak to those fellows of what is happening, and somewhere we will follow it up. But we can say that our solidarity is somewhere else. So I think these are the specific cases, logical end one, and then the enforcement authorities putting pressure on them in any case, and then the other communities need to follow the law of the land, and that is what they are violating. So how do we bring those things together is very important. That is my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Venkat.
And finally, I think, I don't know whether I get a chance, but I would like to appeal all of you, the future, especially Dalit children's future at stake. We are in an emergency. It's not that normal. It's not normal. Every school, every village, every place, urban, 40% is now urban. Urban is completely gone case. We are not getting information from the urban deprivations and urban discriminations. See, urban, in a village that is coming out through media or something else, but urban, I live in Hyderabad. Hyderabad mein gali mein discrimination hai. The space, the water, and you can find if there is no water, that means that is Dalit. If the school has no toilets, that means majority of children are Dalit going. So you can define those institutions where the discrimination is happening. And if the rice and food is low quality, that means Dalits are eating there. So there is no rocket science to understand these issues. Why I am focusing on children, because it may be the audience may be interested or not interested, but the future at least. Let us protect the future with the dignity. That girl, I mentioned that girl yesterday, she went back to school and told me that I will give my memo like this. At the end of the examination, I will pass. I will throw my memo on principal's face. That means she is angry and she's, she wants to fight back. And these fights are happening. It's not that we are not newly, so we need to connect these battles. We need to connect these battles. And as Martin said, the state is very powerful now. The state spaces are at homes, in our homes, the neighbors, everybody is spying. One petition, if you take to a police station and to any officer by a Dalit, and the moment they petition, the phone calls comes, threatening calls comes. How do we protect these things? They are ready to fight. but who are there to protect them? That is where the situation, it's not a right-wing state or left-wing state or everywhere. The weak, when they are approaching to the authorities, these people are threatened. And people like you have to build networks within the officers. I must say that officers are there, but they have to be courageous, who want to support, who that comes from you. If a circle inspector, if a who is authority, there is every district we have vigilance committees. The members, can we build their capacities? Every district we have SC/ST vigilance monitoring committees. Let me tell you, I'm not cynical again. I want to build their capacities. Then only this will happen to protecting them, their capacities. Building their capacities is also very important. And children, I think children, they are not teaching properly. Teachers are insulting them, and every school is happening. I can give you in writing. I'm not saying that I go every day to schools. I listen to these stories, and 3 girls said to me that the teacher is not smiling. That means she is insulting. So these girls, Dalit girls, 3 girls said, unless she smiles, we won't go to that school. Then teacher has to, reconcile that. That is where the fight comes from. It's not that they're not taking like that, but there's a battles. Can we identify those battles? If a child is not in school, what happened? 12 years she went to school. Why she went back? Somebody is insulted. That the ground rule is, a child is moved out of school, there is an insult. That is the thing, you take it. That means now lakhs of children are insulted by the institutions. I think that's where we should find out, can we have a pilot thing? Each one of you take one school. Last year, how many children you pushed out? Tell us. Just take a numbers and then you find out what is happening to those children. Track them and then bring back. So many issues are there. But I'm glad that I'm there in this forum, SADAN. You are all good listeners, and I'm angry actually. These 10 days I'm running around these children, going to their house. Their houses are 10 by 10, and they are Navodaya. I don't know how many of you know. They competed in the Navodaya school, and they're 12th class. And these Haris and Viveks, and they're bright. And that's why I'm angry, and also I'm happy. Angry and happy to be with you all. Thank you. Thank you, Vijay, giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Venkat Reddy garu. Yeah, like Navodaya, might be many people may know here, but somebody does not know. It is the central government syllabus school in India. Like only few children like who are the genius, they only can get into in that schools. So now what this Brahmanic the administration is trying to do, just they want to make them as Ekalavyas, right? So they want to kick them out from that school. So that's what they are trying to do. So thank you very much for bringing that information to Global Forum, Venkat Reddy garu. It's very shame to see, like, in 21st century, somebody mentioned here, 21st century, we are still talking about untouchability in the community. So untouchability means, like, the child cannot even touch the pot for water in the schools. Those are the schools we are calling like educational schools in India. It's like, can we see that kind of stuff in Western country? Any school here? No, we cannot. So that's what we are talking about here. Thank you. I think somebody has some questions before. Anybody has any questions?
Question is Varsha Bhargavi said, yes, please ask the participants to initiate a MP call campaign, an advice, a suggestion.
Yep.
Yes. May I say something?
Sure, definitely, Varsha. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for arranging this session. It's a very, very pertinent discussion in today's times, and all the more important to keep this untouchability topic very relevant, because we cannot look away from it. It's happening right in front of our eyes. And I request that maybe, like, in meetings such as these, whenever you arrange, maybe online and offline, if you can initiate something like an action oriented thing, like Venkat Reddy garu rightly pointed out, when somebody from abroad calls, the phone call gets picked up on the members of parliament or the MLAs, and they take you seriously. So, and all the MPs' mobile numbers and their email addresses and their postal addresses are listed on Lok Sabha website. I have shared the link to their the list of the MPs. You can even download it as per the state, and maybe if you can have a volunteers group to call them, on one particular week, mass, in mass, if you do it, like, maybe 10 people calling the same MP, I think it's probably would trigger some kind of action. Or you can even specifically ask to have a parliamentary session on children and untouchability in schools, because that's the statistics are there. Because in every school you have, in DICE data, you have, how many scheduled caste and scheduled tribe students enroll in the government schools. That is, those are the public schools. So the data is always there. The oppressed communities, children, they always go to the government schools because they are poor and they cannot afford private education. So I think maybe something action oriented from your end, and we can amplify it from here by doing a similar campaign. But then a call, for every 10 calls or every 50 calls that we make within India, one or two calls from abroad, I think, that would add so much of value. That's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Varsha. It's a wonderful idea. Yeah. So definitely we'll take that that idea and we work on that. Actually, like me and Sadia worked on, inviting the two MPs from Canada to be part of this this event, and be as a solidarity and put the pressure on the Indian government from Canada. But unfortunately we could not get. And the big challenge we have been facing it. So as previous the people, like the speakers mentioned, there is a propaganda. It has been established by these dominant caste people for a long time. Even the Western people, the white, especially white people, they cannot even imagine that, like, there is a caste system in India, or there is untouchability exist in India. They cannot, like, we are trying to explain them, but their mind cannot take it. They cannot take it, and they cannot take it serious, and they don't want to talk about it. If something small happen in Western country regarding racism, everybody come here. All the parliament, go up. All media go up. But as somebody mentioned before, 200 million Dalits and almost 100 million Adivasis, total like 300 million Dalit Adivasis have been going through this untouchability and brutal caste system for thousands of years in South Asia, especially in India. So, but no media talks about this. No MP from Western countries talk about it, because like they have been told by these Western dominant caste people there is no caste system, right? So that's the propaganda. It has been established in Western country for a long time. So now we are trying to break it. Definitely, like, yeah, that's a good idea. We take it from here. We keep, we try our level best to push these political leaders to voice for us. Thank you. I think somebody has question before. We can take one or two questions, then we can close the session. Anybody has? Arunji is here from Ambedkar International Mission. So he has been our guru for a long time in Canada. Arunji, can you just give one or two words? We cannot hear Arunji. unmute yourself, please.
Okay, I have one question. Is there any place in the world, including India, where Indians live and there is no casteism and untouchability? And what is the way to eradicate it? Except the political power in the hands of Dalit Bahujans. Can anybody answer this? Audience or speakers? Or
Is there any place without casteism in India? That's the question.
is there any place or sector of economy where there is no casteism or untouchability, where Indians are there?
Yeah.
And what is the way? Instead of talking, there is casteism, there is atrocities on Dalit Bahujans. And what is the way out for this?
It's a very difficult question.
You know, I think Arunji, caste is a reality, and the caste is not just about independent of power. Caste is also about power, political power, economic power, social power. Why is it surviving? Precisely because it is enmeshed in all kinds of privileges and all kinds of institutions. So it is like the institutions were built to protect the caste, right? Like that's one of the reasons why when people like Venkat Reddy garu was telling that how the apathy in institutions, how bureaucracy is not responding, institutions are weakened, and no one responds to caste atrocities or caste problems because institutions themselves are molded in such a way that caste is perpetuated without any sort of impunity. In this that's one of the reasons why Ambedkar wrote constitution. Implementing constitution is fundamental to the idea of justice and equality and human dignity. And challenge for us is that yes, we are talking about atrocities, not just to complain about it. We are talking because we are passionate and we want to rectify these issues. And the only way is that, as Venkat Reddy demonstrated, despite discrimination, despite all sorts of problems, there is children in classrooms sit and desire to have a good education. That is the struggle. I think all of us have same stories, like you, me, or Vijay, all of us. That's one of the reasons why we have to organize these events and talk about caste restriction, because not to complain, but to fight against Brahmanism and Brahminical oppression. And caste will not go unless we desire and we struggle and fight against it. That's how we reached here. I think that's what the challenge. The last 3,000 years, Dalits are fighting and surviving. And the only way, there is no alternative other than fighting against it in multiple forms. Jai Bhim.
Thank you, Brother Chennaya. Rajaram Sangam, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Rajaram Sangam. I don't have any question, just I want to add Professor Chennaya asked this one. I agree with him and 100%. And Arunji, I think he forgot, not only the global, even go to the moon, anywhere in sky also, there is a caste system. So just I want to add that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajaram.
I wanted to add a sentence. Caste system is a distribution system all to the Swarna's caste, Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas, and nothing to the Shudras and the untouchables, except the services to them. It is a distribution system and nothing else.
Thank you, Arunji.
Thank you, Arunji.
Agree with that. So only one question we can take, then we are going to close it. Anybody has any question? Last question? Okay, seems to be everything is okay. Then we are going to request Dr. Chennaya Jangam to give the closing remarks. Dr. Chennaya, please.
Yes, Jai Bhim to you all. And again, thank you very much, SADAN, and also all the organizations which supported this event, and particularly to Martin Macwan, Prachi, and Reddy garu for coming. And especially, is basically it's a sad instance for which we have gathered together, particularly loss of a child life because, because of no crime. Basically, the water is a basic human right. Every child and every human being needs water. And this tells the intensity of caste discrimination and the practice of untouchability. And that, also reflects on the Indian civilization of the so-called democratic country in the world, how inhumanity gets perpetuated in the name of religion, in the name of, civilization. So in this context, like particularly Martin Macwan talked about the way in which atrocities are continuing even after India's independence, and the instances and the reports they have brought out, and also the consistent fight they're waging against the caste discrimination and untouchability. And I'm really grateful for his time and also to come into this event. And Prachi, as always, is a she is always with us, and she is one of the traveler with us in terms of anti-caste fight and also organizing, and we are very grateful. And Venkat Reddy Garu, I know him since 1991, where he and Professor Shanta Sinha and others started this MVF and led a very interesting campaign against bonded labor in Rangareddy district. And I was part of the camps, and even now, he's still same passionate and same sort of commitment for education of children in rural India and also across caste and class lines. And I'm so grateful that the stories he shared, at one level they're heartbreaking, but also they're also hopeful because there is a desire among children and also people to improve their lives and also to get away from the caste oppression. So, and Vijay and other team members, and particularly our allies in Canada and also in the US and across the world, who have supported this event, and we are very grateful for it. And as we said, we would like to initiate some kind of action in terms of how do we respond as a diaspora community against these sort of atrocities, and we would like to work on this. And thank you again, all of you, for coming. And Jai Bhim, Jai Savitri, and Jai Fatima to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. We'll keep meeting and we'll see you again. Bye.
Jai Bhim to all.
Jai Bhim.
Maybe.
Bye.
Bye, Prachi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Venkat Reddy Garu. Thanks for